Alright, we are going to do a little quick 2-day unit on an intro into polar coordinates. So this is a way of graphing equations and dots and stuff that's different from the traditional XY plane that you're used to. So instead of seeing ordered pairs that are x comma y, what you're going to see instead is ordered pairs that are r comma theta. So all that means, and take a second to pause this and write it down if you need to, is that r is the distance from the center. So think radius for r, that's probably why it's called that. And so that's the distance from the center of 0, 0. And then angle, or theta, is the angle in degrees or radians, so it can be given to either way. So this kind of fits in with what we were just doing with the unit circle, but you're going to start again from the x-axis and count around, just like we did in the unit circle with your degrees or your radians, okay? So when you see a point, it's going to look something like this. It's going to be something like maybe 4, 30 degrees, okay? And you'd probably see it written more like this. And what you're going to do is, I like to actually do the angle first. So you count around your unit circle 30 degrees, and so that's right along this line that I drew in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to walk out 4 units on this line. So you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's kind of where I made that dot happen, okay? Let's do some more practice of just plotting the points. That's all I'm going to have you do today, and then on Friday, you're going to do some equations and stuff like that. Okay? So, let me just back up for a quick second here. We are going to plot a few points. Now, what you're going to see is on a polar graph, instead of having an x and a y like this, and then grid lines, you're going to see more circles like this, and those represent the numbers on the radius, so how far we count out. So this little circle is a radius of 1, the next circle is a radius of 2, and then 3, and then 4. Looks a little bit like a target or an expanded fried egg, but that's what all of those little rings mean. Okay, so I'm going to start by plotting the point 2, 45. So that is going to happen at 45 degrees, which if you grab your unit circle, you remember, is right here halfway between 0 and 90, where I'm moving my arrow there. Okay, so that's the line I'm thinking on, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to hop out 1, 2 from there, and this is where my dot goes. Okay, it doesn't have to be any harder than when you first learned how to plot x and y points. Just think of it, do the angle first, and then hop out that many bars. Now, second dot on my thing is 5, 13 pi over 6. Okay, as you furiously dig for your unit circle, you're going to notice that 13 pi over 6 is not an angle that's on your unit circle, and that's because that's more than a full circle. So if I'm thinking in terms of pi over 6, okay, 1/2 circle is pi, and so that would be 6 pi over 6. 1 whole circle is 2 pi, and that would be 12 over 6, 12 pi over 6. So 13 pi over 6 is just 1 pi over 6 past that, okay? So 30 degrees or 1 pi over 6 past a full circle, which is right here. So on this line that I'm drawing, I'm going to hop out 5 units from 0, 0 on that radius, okay? So I draw that in, and then 5 is actually out right past that ring, okay? Go ahead and copy that down as well. Now, I'm going to get into some r values that are negative. So just like on the xy plane, where you can go negative this way on the x-axis, and you can go negative this way on the y-axis, I can have negative r values, I can have negative angles, and so on and so forth. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 2 pi over 3 on my circle, which happens right around here. It's at 120 degrees for those of you who prefer degrees. And then on that line, I'm going to be on that line, but I'm going to go backwards 4 spaces. So I'm actually going to end up down here in quadrant 4 instead. So I'm going from that angle, but I'm going negative. Okay, and so that dot happens right down there. Okay. Last one I'm going to do, and I forgot to kind of put a stop in there, so let me just back up here for a second. Is the last dot is going to be at -1, 0 degrees. So 0 degrees is right here on that x-axis, and from there I'm just going -1, so I'm backing it up 1 to that spot right there. Okay, now I can go ahead and press play. I want you to pause the video and try to graph those 3 dots, A, B, and C. When you're ready, go ahead and unpause it and check your answers. Alright, so you should have A, B, and C graphed in those spots. If you don't understand why, take a second to ask somebody around you, try and figure out where you might have made a mistake, keeping close attention to the fact that B and C were negative, so they should actually go opposite of 90 degrees and opposite of 5 pi over 4. Other than that, you should be in good shape, okay? Now all I'm going to have you do is your classwork and homework for the rest of the block is to work on the rest of that polar coordinates packet. So all you're doing is plotting points. It might ask you a few challenging questions. Do the best you can, and we'll talk about that more next week when I'm back.